From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Sweeney Gray. Taxi drivers, plumbers, and other self-employed workers will be able to receive a monthly bonus of 700 sovereign bolivars. The payout will be made by the Venezuelan government over the next 3 months. Communication Minister Jorge Rodriguez said the government will provide 40% of the minimum wage, or just about a 20th of a petrol. That's equal to 700 sovereign bolivars. To get the bonus, self-employed workers must have the Homeland ID card and sign up via a government website. In addition to the new economic grant, Minister Jorge Rodriguez made a call for migrating Venezuelans to return home.
Ironically, Jorge has talked about the 6 million Colombian people who have migrated to Venezuela. Many Colombians and Brazilians receive medical attention and education in Venezuela, and no one makes a media show about it. There are no xenophobic reactions about this, compared to the several media outlets in Colombia and Brazil. 6 million Colombian people live here, and they have received generosity and solidarity from the Venezuelan people. We are calling on all the Venezuelan people who have migrated to come back. We need you. You are all necessary to us. You are all welcome. If you come back, we will see quick improvement of this new economic program.
We're joined live now by Diego Sequeira. He's a journalist and political analyst based in Caracas. Diego, what impact do you expect this new grant to have on the lives of ordinary Venezuelans?
Hi there, thanks for having me. Well, the main thing is it's a major macroeconomic adjustment, but not on a neoliberal sense, so because it deals mainly with salary, and it also has to do with how to balance wages in a time where they were trying to de facto take us to dollarization, something like the Central American style. So it was the main move to take a balance for it, to protect actually the common people work on a situation that was kind of getting quite unequal because they were because all the distortion that we were going through thanks to sanctions, and also through our own difficulties via banning foreign exchange, something that's now it's eased up, and it's also helping out and giving a sense to all our economic activity, and also the sense to working people here in Venezuela. So it basically has to do with salary, and it has to do with the bottom-up reform that actually it impacts. Yes, it does, but especially on the high-income classes that has to pay more taxes now and have to pay better salaries. And in doing so, it's not shock-wise, because as you can see, the government is also taking care of the first 3 months so that everything can settle. So it's some kind of work in progress, but there's a nice sense of hope in the street that it wasn't there before. You know, that's pretty something. I think at least at expectations levels.
Can I want to focus on that a little bit. Did Jorge Rodriguez's press conference today do anything to allay the fears and confusion possibly being felt in the country and abroad about the new economic measures?
Well, the thing is, this is a new thing. This is it has a lot of risk taken, but but we had nothing else to do as a country, because they were blocking everywhere else via sanctions, as you may well know. So the thing is that if you don't need remittance to live by, or your salary becomes nothing, and there's no any sense of working here actually and earning a salary, it's a very typical thing to leave. I mean, it has to also to do with several other things, I mean, culturally wise, but it's a lesson. I think a lot of people are actually thinking to come back right now, because it's not the same experience to being a global citizen than a Venezuelan one in Venezuela specifically. So it all depends on what could come afterwards. I mean, we have to expect some sort of reply from the powers that may be, that are actually quite upset with this sort of measures. But also it has to do with something new that it could be even groundbreaking worldwide if it shows a path outside the dollar gives back real value to work, and so it's at least on those terms it should be a better living, and it's also an example. But we will need to face first politics and financial aggressions for sure. So that's something that we have to see how that goes and see how much does impact does it has starting from right now. I mean, it feels quite different. I mean, but it's a sense right now, and we have to see how it goes, especially on price and purchase capacity next week and the week after that, and we'll see. I mean, some are strictly economic, so we have to wait several months to see the real proper outcome. So it's a matter of time, and it's a matter of tenacity, I think. Once we take acquaintance of what we're dealing with.
Now, Diego, how soon do you think we can expect to start seeing the impacts of this new economic plan on the economy, rather positive or negative?
Well, I think some of them you can feel them right now, as in like I'm saying, prices in the street are kind of stable thanks to this agreement. People, I know for a fact that people have bought medicines and other goods at a price that has been established, and it's supposed to be that way from this time on, especially because with the guarantee that Petro gives to value. But those are things that are going to be expected right now, and then there are other ones that are more economic, more than that doesn't have to necessarily to do with policy, that we have to wait some months, as in production, as on a bigger scale of the economic activity as a whole, and also in trade and also in international trading. So it's like I said before, it's kind of like a work in progress, as everything we have to do right now in facing this warlike times. Sorry, so it's something some things can be sure of. It's going to have some sort of answer, some sort of reply. I mean, positives from friendly countries that are interested in this kind of proposal, and of course unfriendly or hostile from you know who, from somewhere, from you know where. So it's quite unpredictable once you see it that way. So we have to wait and still act and hope for the best, as we've just have been doing right now. I mean, and at least for now, it's a very good outcome.
Thank you so much, Diego Sequeira. We really appreciate your insights on this. Thank you. The 9 judges of the Constitutional Court in Ecuador have been dismissed, and the government is set to leave the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, or ALBA. Denise Herrera discusses both in this report from Quito.
Hello, yes, indeed. The Council for Citizen Participation and Social Control decided to dismiss the 9 justices of the Constitutional Court. The measure was approved by 5 votes. 1 council member, the lawyer Javier Zavala, abstained, and the indigenous leader Luis Maca didn't attend the vote. According to the Transitory Council, there was a conflict of interest that benefited the former government. Several critics said that the council doesn't have the power to dismiss the justice, and also others stressed it lacked legitimacy because there was appointed by the president. Also, the Constitution doesn't establish that the Transitory Council have the real power to dismiss this justice. On the other hand, Ecuador has taken another measure, and Ecuador has withdrawn from the Bolivarian Alliance for the People of America, ALBA. Foreign Minister Jose Valencia said that Ecuador has decided to abandon the ALBA immediately because Ecuador wants to be independent of organizations that are trying to impose specific views on Latin America's social and political issues. So that is all we have for now. We will keep you posted with more information as soon as we can. Back to you at the studio.
Thanks for that, Denise. And ALBA's executive secretary has responded to Ecuador's withdrawal from the regional body. The office of the secretary released an official statement saying that ALBA considers Ecuador's withdrawal to be part of a political strategy by some governments to attack Latin American and Caribbean integration. 3 police officers in Ecuador have been arrested after a man was shot and killed during clashes at a police checkpoint in the province of Imbabura. The 24-year-old victim was shot in the head during a confrontation between the police and members of the Mascarilla community. The security agents had arrived in the area after a traffic accident was reported, but clashes broke out when members of the community tried to prevent the agents from arresting the people involved in the accident.
We will determine their responsibility based on the evidence we have. There is evidence which allegedly shows that the bullet was fired from a weapon belonging to security forces.
Short break now, more news after this.
With developing events being presented through analysis. Our coverage transcends borders. With renowned journalist Walter Martinez.
Salud amigos, tripulantes de nuestra querida, contaminada y única nave espacial.
Dossier. Weekdays. Only on Telesur.
Y ponga usted las cámaras, señor director.
Welcome back. The third week of teacher protests in Argentina ends with public classes in the Plaza de Mayo. Egaro Esteban has more.
University workers' protests continue in Argentina. Today, the University Workers' Federation of Buenos Aires organized public classes in the historic Plaza de Mayo as part of the general strike, which will take place all week. They are right behind the presidential building to ask Mauricio Macri for an increase in salary, to respect unions and social rights, and to find a solution for the difficulties experienced by those in public education. The protesters say there's no budget for maintenance, infrastructure, and for technological and scientific research.
Their message is, we must stop the adjustments. Social organizations are demanding for social rights and guarantees after huge economic adjustment policies implemented by President Mauricio Macri.
There is absolute silence on the discussion regarding social budget. We want them to at least repair a small part of the damage made to our neighborhoods, where new popular kitchens are opened each day, where there is no development and where families can even afford one meal.
Around 50 protests have been organized across the country. The protesters block different streets and access points in the capital Buenos Aires and also in other cities. The demonstrators are asking for solutions for the most vulnerable sectors of the society, those who are starving because of these financial policies.
We're witnessing the slow death of society. It is unbelievable to see how neighborhoods decay, moving backwards to 30 years ago. We just want to discuss our jobs, but the government won't do it. And each time, more groups join the fight.
Y creemos que es un momento donde poner las barbas en remojo y que cada uno ponga de su parte.
Workers and human rights organizations participated in these protests. They presented a formal letter rejecting the latest progression against social protest and the destructive consequences of the IMF agreements.
The truth is, This is our limit. We can't take it anymore. Our salaries are not enough. We will continue fighting.
Entramos en una situación, digamos, muy compleja en Argentina.
We are living a very difficult situation in Argentina. This model is based on a strict repression and persecution against the opposition.
Still, the government continues with its brutal monetary reforms. And once again, the people say they won't give up and will keep fighting to defend their rights and dignity.
Colombian citizens are getting ready to vote on an anti-corruption referendum on Sunday. Our correspondent in Bogotá, Jose Manuel Jimenez, has more.
On Sunday, August 26, from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m., Colombian citizens will go to the polls to vote on the anti-corruption referendum. There are 7 main points that will be voted on in order to fight corruption, which officials say robs the country of $50 billion every year. Other questions will include the reform of specific criteria for congressmen and issues related to government hiring. Despite all this, social and political violence continues to terrorize Colombia, as 152 social leaders and human rights defenders have been murdered since the start of the year all across the country. And yet the government has done nothing to stop such acts.
Peru's Congress has suspended Yesenia Ponce for 4 months over a false resume. The congresswoman of the right-wing Fuerza Popular reportedly paid 10,000 soles to the director of a high school she didn't attend. The sanction recommended by the Ethics Committee was supported by 96 votes, with 1 vote against. And still in Peru, dismissed municipal workers are calling on the government to bring into force legislation that would ensure their rights are protected and guaranteed.
Last year, demand for salary increases cost Pueblo Libre City Hall workers their jobs. They say they have little or no recourse.
I have 4 sons. 2 had to drop out of college because of the harm that was done to me. What I earn in other jobs is not enough. This harm is beyond repair for me and my family.
The labor market is quite insecure, especially for the 150,000 plus municipal employees. In fact, there is no provision in the law to ensure collective bargaining for salary increases.
There are no salary increases. They have told us that municipalities do not have the funds, or simply the law just won't allow it.
Those affected by the layoff are mostly cleaners and civil guards. They earn the lowest salaries in the sector, yet some of them do the most hazardous jobs and without proper equipment.
We start at 5 o'clock in the morning and endure both hot and cold temperatures. This is damaging to our health. Some of us become ill from coming into contact with garbage in the streets, and also when we clear irrigation wells.
Thanks to public pressure, Congress has done away with the serve law, which has been described as slavery. Now it is up to the government to enact the said law.
Now to Paraguay, where workers have demonstrated against a bill that could privatize pension funds. The lower house is currently discussing the bill.
Pensioners and workers from different sectors have been demonstrating in Asunción to reject a bill that they say will seize their retirement funds.
The bill was presented in 2015. It aims to seize our retirement funds, not only in the public sector. The bill also touches on the funds of private companies and municipal funds.
Workers say the government of former President Horacio Cartes presented the bill to control pensioners' funds. But they add, the project seeks to seize thousands of millions of dollars of the contributions.
They want to seize $3.5 billion, which will go to the financial system. It will not be used to invest and generate jobs. It will go to the financial system without any possibility of guarantees. This gives superpowers to the superintendent.
New President Mario Abdo Benitez of the conservative Colorado Party is following the same political and economical line as his predecessor. Social organizations have announced protests.
We know that Cartes plundered the state. If Abdo Benitez follows the same path, it will also run into the same thing as Cartes, which is seeing people in the streets. We are not going to keep quiet.
80% of workers in Paraguay do not have Social Security. 8 out of 10 does not have a pension plan. The government's intention to privatize retirement funds is added to this reality. Union workers say they will continue to protest.
Millions of citizens in Bolivia have access to free health care thanks to a brigade of Cuban doctors. The Cuban Health Brigade started to work in Bolivia a decade ago. Over 700 Cuban health professionals are currently providing services, many of them in remote areas. Additionally, over 3,000 medical graduates are working for the Ministry of Health in more than 25 indigenous communities.
An eye web surgery costs around $250. Cataract surgery costs between $1,000 and $1,500. If we add up the costs of surgeries performed for free, the cost of what we've been given surpasses 1 billion Bolivians.
Relatives of the 72 migrants killed in Mexico 8 years ago are demanding answers from the government. The 2010 San Fernando massacre is the mass murder of 72 illegal immigrants by Los Zetas drug cartel.
Relatives of Central and South American migrants are seeking justice. They're demanding the truth about their loved ones who were killed or disappeared during their journey north.
En Guatemala no nos hicieron justicia.
We didn't get justice in Guatemala. What the Foreign Ministry did was cross-examine us because our relatives left the country to go to the US.
Salvadoran Batila Osoria has mourned her son's murder for 7 years. He, like thousands of other youngsters, was chasing the American dream, but he became a victim of Mexican violence. Migrants in the country have become one of the major targets of this violence.
It was nearly 2 years later when a request from the public prosecutor came. I was waiting for the news, but I wasn't ready for being told that my son was found in a hidden grave in San Fernando.
For them, access to justice has become a nightmare. They have difficulty traveling or getting a visa to enter Mexico.
The case has been stuck in a bureaucratic trap between the countries. We have not seen goodwill by the Mexican state to work with the Central American countries.
NGOs denounce what they believe is a lack of sensitivity by Mexican authorities in these kinds of cases. This killing happened 8 years ago on a farm in the municipality of San Fernando, in the state of Tamaulipas. This incident represents a huge problem the country is facing. At least in this case, the bodies of 72 killed migrants were found.
Come. The Mexican state used to say this to Central American migrants. But if you come, you already know what is waiting for you. Graves, mutilations. The Mexican National Institute for Migration is acting in cohesion with criminals, and it's guided by the police and army.
11 people have been arrested for their alleged link to the massacre, but families are seeking answers. They also want the victims' remains identified.
The Chief Justice of the Bahamas, Stephen Isaacs, has died. Isaacs was appointed acting Chief Justice last December. He was officially sworn into the post just 2 weeks ago. He was 63. The earthquake that affected Trinidad and Tobago on Tuesday may delay the opening of schools in September. The Education Minister told reporters that they had been on track to have all schools open on time. However, the damage to schools will now have to be addressed. He says he remains hopeful that despite the additional work, they can have all schools opened on schedule. Time for another break. World News is next.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Hawaiians are hunkering down, bracing for a hurricane. Residents stocked up on water, food, and emergency supplies. Hurricane Lane dipped from a Category 3 storm to a still strong Category 2 on Friday as it churned slowly north-northwest near the Hawaiian Islands. The Central Pacific Hurricane Center declared catastrophic flooding was occurring on the Big Island of Hawaii. Honolulu Mayor Kurt Caldwell said if it becomes necessary, he will issue a mandatory evacuation for people in Waikiki to move to the second floor of buildings. Zimbabwe's Constitutional Court has declared Emmerson Mnangagwa to be the legitimate president-elect. The court dismissed claims of vote rigging by the opposition leader Nelson Chamisa of the MDC Alliance. Last month's elections were followed by violent protests, which were suppressed by the security services. After learning of Chamisa's plan to contest the results, Mnangagwa said that he was pleased that the opposition chose the legal route instead of violence.
We are happy for all those Zimbabweans who managed to vote for my clients and who managed to support the challenge. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we are happy on account of the matter that we brought to court. We are happy on account of the questions raised, which in our view, ZEC failed to answer.
It's been 1 year since the mass exodus of the Rohingya minority from the Rakhine state of Myanmar. Just under 1 million people have been displaced due to a military crackdown in August of last year. Most of the refugees fled to Bangladesh to escape what the United Nations calls textbook ethnic cleansing. Myanmar has said its security forces and Buddhist violence was against the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, who claimed responsibility for various attacks. There have been long-standing hostilities between the Muslim minority and other communities, which the government says will take time to resolve. The Constitutional Court of Colombia has re-legalized bullfighting. It overturned a 2017 ruling that considered bullfighting as a form of animal abuse. As of May 2019, bullfighting can begin again, but only during specific seasons in places with a proven bullfighting tradition. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at talisyoutv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Talis Your English, I'm Soini Gray. Thank you for watching.